so many good Muslims married to bad Muslims? My sister is good, but her husband has stopped praying and drinks. Sometimes he beats her up. Should I encourage her to leave him? Well, the general instruction in Islam, which encourages, the good women for good men, etc. I mean, what is it addressing? It is really addressing the issue that in choosing a husband, or a husband in choosing a wife, they should choose those who are good. Good from what perspective? Good from the perspective of God. That they're God-fearing people who live up to the prescriptions of the religion. They live in accordance with the teachings of the religion. Not good in the sense that they have a lot of money, but they're corrupt. Because, I mean, that good, the good of the money, is looked at as good. And for a husband to have money is not a bad thing. However, if that's all he has, and he as an individual is a corrupt individual living a life which is displeasing to God, then this is not a good individual. So, in the case of marriage, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had instructed us that women are married for 4 reasons. Both women and men. Women are married for 4 reasons. For their beauty, for their family, that is the status of their family, and for their wealth, and for their piety. And he said, marry the pious and you will be successful. Success lies in marriage. Success lies in marrying those who are pious. That's the foundation. It doesn't mean, of course, that if the person is not attractive to you, and in fact you find them unattractive, you find them, disgusting, but they are very pious, that you should go ahead and marry simply because they're pious. No. The concept of attraction is also a part of the religion. Prophet ﷺ had told the men, the women, to look at each other, that they should see each other before marriage. I mean, that though we have arranged marriages in Islam, it doesn't mean that people are married without seeing each other. Of course, if a man chooses to marry, according to the choice of his parents, without even seeing the woman, this is his right to do so. He may choose to do that so, and a woman may choose to do that in the case of her husband also. But it is not what is recommended. The Prophet, may God peace and blessing upon him, recommended that the husband to be and wife to be see each other, because it is better for establishing, attraction from the heart, because that needs to be there too. Religion is very, very important, and it's what will guide the marriage in the correct direction. But if there isn't an attraction from the heart, if there is no attraction at all, in fact there is repulsion, then this is a time bomb, in the marriage. It will make the marriage, a source of pain and suffering, and not a source of comfort and love, as Allah describes marriage in the Quran. So, we're saying here that there's a general principle that people should choose, good husbands, good wives, good meaning, good in the sight of God, according to fear of God, etc. Now, if a woman marries a man who externally appeared to be good, in terms of his practice, etc., all the information confirms that he was good, then after marriage she finds him, abandoning prayer, drinking, etc., etc., then she would be advised to encourage him to come back. Not to automatically just give up on him and go, but she should encourage him to come back. She needs to find out, what is the factor? What are the factors which have led him to this state? To encourage a person to leave their corruption, abandonment of prayer or drinking, things like this, one needs to know why. Why did they do this? Was it a calamity in their lives? Is it because they're seeking some kind of advancement and they're hanging around people who look down on those who pray and and encourage drinking alcohol, etc. So she has to look. Is it his job, etc. These type of situations, It's obviously it's wrong. It's weakness on his part. It's error. But what does she do? She doesn't just abandon him immediately, but she should try to bring him back. She should try to find out what is the cause, try to address that cause, to encourage him either to leave that job, go to another job, or, you know, if it's an issue of calamity in his life, you know, to have others, you know, maybe to advise him to be patient, show him the verses of the Quran where Allah says that He will try and test us in our lives and in our wealth, etc. Those are all a part of the trials of life. She should try to advise him, get others to advise him, etc. Now, after having tried all of these things for a period of time, and I cannot set a period, is it 4 months, is it half a year, is it 1 year, you know, there are no limits that can be set on this specifically, but she has to see, having tried her best, if she sees that there is no fruit, that it's not going forward, it is destructive, it's even threatening her own religion, then she should leave that relationship, you know. I mean, as a good woman, she should be married to a good man, a man who is going to help her in the religion. As the Prophet ﷺ has said, that marriage is half of the religion. Half meaning that your husband or your wife should be helping you to be more religious, helping you to fulfill the requirements of God. When a person is on their own, you know, it's a greater struggle with a husband or a wife who is religious also. That helps them in the areas of their own weaknesses. And in that way, the marriage becomes half of the religion. And the Prophet ﷺ said, and fear Allah in the remainder. So, where a woman finds herself in such a situation, my advice to her, and to the sister who wrote in, sister from Ajman, you know, you encourage your sister to struggle with the situation, to encourage this individual to come back to the religion, but I said, by knowing what are the factors behind what led him into this situation, try to do it herself, to encourage him, to have other family members, maybe his own relatives or somebody who he respects, etc., talk to him to try to encourage him. And if failing that, then she does have the right to seek to leave that relationship, especially where it becomes damaging to herself and to her children, etc., etc. We have another question, and this question is from Ras Al Khaima. A brother writes in, Dear Dr. Bilal, I have a bank account in India, and a mullah advised me to take the interest and give it to the poor or repair a local mosque. This makes sense to me. After all, the Hindus must use this money against Muslims, or might use this money against Muslims. Well, we're back to the issue. We discussed this in a previous program, you know, concerning using what is evil for the sake of good. Now, one, your bank account in India, earning interest was haram. This is forbidden. One should not have taken out an account in which interest is being earned. One should seek an account in which there is no interest. If no such accounts are available, then one should get a safety deposit box and just keep the money in that safety deposit box. Take it out when you need it. Otherwise, if interest comes, then that interest has to be left. You cannot take the interest and give it to the poor or, you know, for good purposes. You cannot do this. Once you have taken it, you fall under the sin of taking interest, which is a major sin. It's considered one of the major sins in Islam. My advice would be that you leave that money. Don't take it. You take what is yours, what is your right, you take it out. The remainder you leave in the bank. You don't necessarily have to go and tell the bank manager, you may take this interest and do with it as you please. No. You leave it there. If a time of calamity occurs, where there is a desperate need for monies, you know, people's lives are threatened, people are dying, etc., etc., on such an occasion to take that money to save the life, this is now permissible. Right? But just to take it out on a regular basis, you just collect up your interest and just give it to the poor or give it to the local mosque, etc., etc., this is not acceptable. The only time would be in the case of a life and death circumstance where people's lives are threatened. In such an occasion, one may extract that money and give it. Otherwise, we should seek accounts which are not interest bearing, use the safety deposit box instead, and avoid interest, in our lives as much as possible. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, had said that interest has over 70 branches. The simplest branch, which is what we may consider 0.01%, the simplest branch is equivalent to a man having sexual relations with his mother. And this is something detestable, something horrible. This is how evil it is looked at in the sight of God. That is, that in the same way, obviously taking interest is not the same as having sexual relations with one's mother. I mean, in terms of actual practice, it's not the same. But in the same way that we would feel a sense of revulsion if somebody suggested this act to us, we should feel a similar revulsion if somebody offered us 0.01% of interest. We should feel a similar repulsion. With that, dear viewers, I'd like to thank you for being with us in this segment of our program, In the Light of Islam. I hope the answers which have been given have been beneficial and useful to you. And I pray that Allah continue to guide myself and all of you, and that you continue to watch this program in its future episodes. And with that, I bid you all farewell. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.